As a parent, we get so much joy from being able to watch our children hit those milestones, whether it is learning to roll or crawl, sitting up, taking those big first steps in life. All of those things just bring us so much excitement. But what happens if some of those milestones are a little bit delayed? Speech is one that we often see can be delayed, and if you've ever found yourself worrying if your child's speech is delayed, you're definitely not alone. We actually know that speech delays affect 5 to 10% of children, with boys being 3 to 4 times more likely to be affected than girls. But something that might surprise you is that we have seen that some of the causes of speech delays can actually be related to something that happened during their birth. And so at our office, Pinnacle Chiropractic, we have seen hundreds of children for numerous delays, developmental issues, behavioral issues, and something that we have found across the board is that around 80 to 90% of our intake forms for children that have had speech delays have some sort of therapy or intervention from birth. So during that birth process, there might have been a birth trauma. And so usually things that we have seen documented would be things like forceps, vacuum extraction, emergency C-section, or even sometimes just an induction can lead to a cascade of traumas that then we see kind of play out years later in the form of a speech delay. So we know that studies have shown that interventions like forceps, vacuum, cesarean, which are used in so many deliveries, can potentially cause physical trauma to an infant's upper neck and brainstem area. And so we know on a little baby, that's the one area you want to protect so much because they don't have the muscles in their neck to hold themselves up. It's a very delicate area with the brainstem being right there. And so that's the one place you're always protecting for your little baby, but during birth, it's the one place where a lot of force gets delivered to try to help them exit the canal. And so this trauma can lead to a variety of neurological dysfunction because of the function of the nerves of the neck. But one of those areas of dysfunction that we will see often is a speech delay. So all of those muscles and nerves in that upper neck are what control and facilitate speech. And so sometimes the physical twisting or pulling that comes with birth intervention is really what leads to that subluxation, which is a very fancy chiropractic term, but it means misalignment or fixation, neuromuscular dysfunction in that upper neck area, and then those subluxations that affect those nerves and those muscles are really crucial for speech and are going to ultimately lead to some sort of delay or dysfunction there as well. It matters so much because your nervous system controls every single thing in your body, including your speech development. So if we have those subluxations, it's going to interfere with proper function and the nerves responsible. Therefore, things like traditional speech therapy, which is super valuable, and OT, which is very valuable, don't always address the underlying issue first. So if the underlying issue is subluxation in this area, speech and OT are going to probably help, hopefully, but should not be your first step. Truly getting an assessment for subluxation of the brainstem area, upper neck area, could be and should be the first step before speech and OT, so that those therapies work a lot better for you. So speech is kind of a 3-step process. So first there is perception and input of the auditory component of speech. Second, the brain and nervous system have to integrate and coordinate. And so sometimes what happens is our brain will tell our body what to do, or our body will tell our brain what to do, but they're not coordinated, or that material doesn't make sense. And so if the input and then the integration piece aren't working properly because of subluxation, we're not going to have the output that we need. And so that output or the expression of speech is going to be what is delayed. That's kind of the red flag, like, hey, something's not working, but the first issue is the input issue. We just don't see that until we notice there's an output issue. And so the subluxation is going to interfere with speech formation, including the first 2 things I talked about. But that's why it kind of escapes traditional medical and therapies, because they're missing that piece of the assessment. So it's not just a muscular or a structural issue. When we're talking about speech therapy and looking at speech delays, they're really focusing on a muscular problem, a muscular dysfunction issue, that muscles are kind of the main focus, but muscles are underneath the umbrella of our nervous system. So our nervous system is the biggest umbrella, basically. And so unless our umbrella is working, everything else below that is still going to get wet. It's not going to function properly. So muscles are still under the umbrella of the nervous system. And if that subluxation is a nervous system issue, then the muscles are still underneath that, still within that realm. Many providers will also blame oral or tongue ties, any kind of restriction in the mouth, and saying that that is what's causing a delay. And we talk a lot about that in our office. We are huge proponents of getting that addressed if it's something that needs to be addressed, but it isn't always. And even if it is, that underlying tension and stress of an oral restriction still is under our umbrella of the nervous system. We are tense and tight because of a nervous system issue. So this is why a lot of people report that after doing speech and the revisions, their child still really struggles with a speech delay. So it's not always all of the fruits and the hard work and going to speech and going to OT don't always lead to being caught up on speech. And so we still need to rewind and kind of think like, what is the major first issue, because that has to be addressed first. And so if you are curious about your child's speech delay, or feel like this video resonates with you at all, if you've had something with your children that was a stressful or traumatic event during birth, like forceps or vacuum or cesarean or induction, any kind of trauma, and you have now kind of found your child to be a little bit where you're worried about there being a potential speech delay, you can call our office. We will do neurological insight scans to really see where in the body there is tension, where there is subluxation, and if it is something that we can help with. And so then once we do that, we make a customized plan and really try to work to get that subluxation addressed, the tension, inflammation out of their body, so that if they still need speech and OT, then you're going to see a lot more benefit from that when that time comes. So if this sounds like you, give our office a call. We can't wait to help you.